The 2023 Indianapolis Colts season ended in the most heartbreaking fashion possible. And I mean, we all know that was a tough loss to take, but this team has come a long way from the Jeff Saturday-led debacle in 2022. These Colts are a completely different animal, and they are ready to shock the NFL. The Colts exceeded expectations in 2023, posting a 9-8 record that included impressive wins over the Baltimore Ravens, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the first matchup against the Houston Texans back in September. And I mean, don't forget that this was all done with a backup quarterback for 13 weeks of the season. And that's no disrespect to Gardner Minshew, who he's a decent backup if you want to call him that. I mean, he's decent. I'll give him that. And I mean, he managed to play pretty decent throughout the season and even managed to keep the Colts alive in the playoff run, keeping them at like a 7-6 record while he was starting. But like, I mean, even myself, and I think a lot of people included, are wondering how good this Colts team might have been if Anthony Richardson stayed healthy for the entire season last year. Like, they looked really good when he was in. Like, as we all know, Richardson was the 4th overall pick in 2023, which several people viewed as much of a reach, but in his time at Florida, Richardson left absolutely no doubt that he was one of the best rushing quarterbacks in his draft class. Like, hell, maybe even if not the last decade. But there were still many doubts about his ability as a pocket passer, having completed just over half of his passes during his time as a Gator. New head coach Shane Steichen had faith in Richardson and gave him the starting job from week 1, beginning a new era of Colts football with their new number 5 at quarterback. People were wondering, could he become the long-term replacement for Andrew Luck that the team has desperately been searching for, having tried Jacoby Brissett, Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz, and Matt Ryan, and getting no closer to success. And Richardson was kind of held back in his first few games as a starter by the absence of the Colts' strongest offensive weapon, superstar running back Jonathan Taylor. And as we all know, and understandably too, Jonathan Taylor was holding out due to his contract he wanted to re-up with the Colts, and also just because of Jim Irsay just kind of being Jim Irsay and just a complete idiot at times. And I mean, despite missing their star running back, Steichen and Richardson got to work, looking to show Indy fans exactly what they were getting. And let me just tell you, going back to last season, that's exactly what they did, even if it was just for a couple of games, or a few games I should say. They showed off how good Richardson could be inside of this offense. And as I said before, Richardson's rushing ability was never in doubt, and he showed that in flashes during his first 4 starts. His 40-yard dash time of 4.43 seconds is obviously amongst the league's very best at the position, but when you combine that with his huge 6'4", 244-pound frame, he is a difficult man to stop on the ground. In the Week 2 victory over the Texans, Richardson showed off both his speed and size immediately, scoring 2 rushing touchdowns in the first 6 minutes of the game, stunning the home crowd at NRG Stadium. And I mean, the second touchdown in particular is just a thing of beauty for Colts fans. When you look at it on a fake to Zach Moss at the 15-yard line, Richardson kept the ball and, aided by great blocks, barrels into the end zone with free safety MJ Stewart totally unable to keep him out of the end zone for another 6 Colts points. Like, I mean, in short yardage situations, Richardson's stock just completely goes through the roof because of just how big and how hard he is to tackle in those short yardage situations. And now, I know if you're the Colts, you don't want to completely abuse your quarterback when you're down by the goal line, but when it's that hard and that easy for him to just plow through the line and get there, I don't know why you wouldn't do that. Like, I mean, look at the Jags and Rams. They found out the hard way, giving up short yardage touchdowns in weeks 1 and 4 respectively. And to make this even scarier too, imagine a defense that also has to then go and defend Jonathan Taylor also. But I think the most impressive aspect of Richardson's play was arguably his abilities in the passing game, which had possibly gone underrated by many fans and analysts prior to the season. Like, I mean, look, during his brief time as a starter, Richardson was quietly impressive, finding his man in stride consistently and showing great ability to read defenses and not force throws that weren't there. His chemistry with Michael Pittman Jr. in particular was arguably the most promising thing. Like, I mean, look, Pittman by a distance is the Colts' best receiver, and hopefully Adonai Mitchell can become that number 2 they so desperately need. Like, on any team, it's critical that the quarterback and the star receiver are on the same page, and the chemistry absolutely seemed to be there straight away, with Pittman picking up 97 yards and a 39 touchdown in that very first start against Jacksonville. Sadly, as we all know, Richardson's season was cut painfully short due to a shoulder injury picked up in the Week 5 matchup against the Tennessee Titans, denying Colts fans and honestly NFL fans in general a chance to see more of him and what he promised to be an electric rookie season. And now, look, I know many people are going to try and crown this guy, or even some analysts are going to try and crown him as like an elite quarterback right now, but just after 4 games, it's kind of hard to do that. And I mean, even when you do look at some of the games, there were some errant throws that just kind of, I mean, it comes with being a rookie in the NFL. You're going to make some bad throws. But I mean, the ceiling in general for Richardson is just so high. Like, his ceiling is just so high. And I really can see this guy doing some big stuff this year inside of this electric offense. Like, I mean, honestly, maybe even as high as his division rival CJ Stroud, who picked up a deserved Rookie of the Year award last season, which saw the Texans complete a rebuild in record time. And if you haven't seen that video, go watch that one on my channel. But already looking like one of the league's very best teams for 2024. Like, I mean, honestly, I'd even argue that coming back and just having a full offseason, not only to recover from the injury he had, but also just build those relationships with his new wide receivers and wide receivers that were already there, his ceiling could be as high as CJ Stroud's rookie year from last year. Like, those two were going to compete for Rookie of the Year last year, being probably the best 2 quarterbacks from the draft. Like, I mean, we saw what CJ Stroud did last year and how he helped the Texans complete a rebuild in almost record time and also won the Rookie of the Year, that Richardson could have been in that same conversation with the Colts. And yes, I understand that while he was on the sideline, it did hold him back. And honestly, you can't really learn defenses if you're not out there on the field, obviously. So that's going to hold him back a little bit. But I mean, like, there is no doubt that he is placed to have an impressive 2024 season, especially with the weapons he has around him on this offense. And also to pair along with the offensive weapons he has is his new head coach in Shane Steichen. Steichen was appointed as the head coach on February 14th, 2023, just days after his final game as Philadelphia Eagles offensive coordinator. Inheriting a team that had just won 4 games in 2022 and just 1 playoff game since 2015 didn't look like the easiest task. But already Steichen has shown himself to be more than up to the job. Steichen is one of the current crop of exciting young offensive minds in the league, having been an offensive coach for the Chargers and Browns before his breakthrough role as the offensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles. Under Nick Sirianni, Steichen transformed the Eagles offense into a juggernaut that was one of the NFL's very best offenses. And crucially for Colts fans, this was all achieved with a dual threat quarterback in an offense that transformed games on the ground. And I mean, this offense helped the Eagles to go 14-3 and reach the Super Bowl with an offense that was ranked 2nd in scoring, only behind Patrick Mahomes and his Kansas City Chiefs. Like, that year, he had Jalen Hurts looking like a legitimate MVP candidate with a passer rating of 101.5 and 13 touchdowns on the ground. And yes, we all know how many of those 13 touchdowns were considered probably tush pushes or just really short yardage runs from Jalen Hurts. But I mean, when you have somebody that's even bigger than Jalen Hurts at your quarterback position, you can't help but imagine it's going to be similar stuff for Anthony Richardson too, no? Like, I mean, to keep it simple, the Colts offseason last year was geared toward having Richardson at quarterback. So when Gardner Minshew had to step in for 13 games, that meant that Steichen and his staff had to redraw game plans for a career backup who is not as athletic of just what Anthony Richardson is. But Steichen adapted well, and despite Minshew's obvious limitations as a quarterback, the Colts still had a strong season, surpassing most people's expectations with a commendable 9-8 record, and it's honestly pretty competitive in that new AFC South division. And looking at just Minshew by himself inside of Steichen's offense, he had the most productive season he's ever had in his career, with 3,305 passing yards in just 13 starts, which saw him rewarded with a contract as a Las Vegas Raider this year. And I mean, honestly, just one more point to drive this point home on just how good Steichen is as a head coach is look at the Eagles offense from when he was there to just how bad they looked last year, and even Jalen Hurts as a whole, how bad he was last year too. Without Steichen at the helm, Hurts' interception numbers soared from 6 to 15 and his passer rating dropped below to 90, a far cry from the production that Steichen had got out of him in 2022. After Steichen's departure, the Eagles' rushing attack doesn't quite look the same, and there's no reason why this Colts offense can't replicate the kinds of output they produced when at their very best. Like, I mean, Jonathan Taylor's contract has been sorted out for another 3 seasons, leaving the Colts free of the distraction that plagued the first month of last season. Taylor has had some injury struggles in the last 2 years, which is just about the only thing that can stop him, as he is one of the league's very best at the position when healthy. Taylor's 2021 season was nothing short of incredible, racking up 1,811 rushing yards and 18 touchdowns, leading the league in both and picking up a unanimous All-Pro honors along the way. If Steichen wants a true run-first offense in Indy as he did in Philadelphia, a backfield of Richardson and Taylor is as good as it gets and is near enough impossible to scheme against. This running game will also heavily rely on an extremely good offensive line, led by Colts center Ryan Kelly. Kelly's been a Colt since 2016 and is a 4-time Pro Bowler, having snapped the ball to 9 different quarterbacks in his time in Indiana. Last year was Kelly's best year yet according to PFF, helped out by All-Pro Quentin Nelson and an up-and-coming Bernhard Reinman and Will Fries, who both had impressive campaigns the last time out. Together as a unit, this O-line is ranked 3rd by PFF this year, but the Colts have also added Matt Goncalves and Tanner Bortolini in the draft to add some depth to this unit, protecting them against injuries as the year goes on. The Colts also added former Texas Longhorn wide receiver Donnie Mitchell in the 2nd round of the draft to line up opposite Michael Pittman in the passing game. And honestly, for me, Mitchell was probably one of my favorite prospects in the draft and is even more exciting on this team as he's a true explosive wide receiver too, who runs a 4.34 40-yard dash and has a highlight reel as good as any wide receiver in this draft. Mitchell is absolutely a deep threat, and if Richardson can master his accuracy on long throws, he could have a huge year in 2024, burning secondaries over the top week in and week out, especially if they have their hands full with Michael Pittman. The re-signing of Pittman Jr. is arguably the most important move that the Colts made this offseason too, as he is one of the truly game-changing receivers that the team has had on its roster in 2023. And look, re-signing him wasn't cheap, with Pittman signing a $71.5 million 3-year deal in March, but making the deal was a no-brainer for Indianapolis, who simply have to give their rookie quarterback the best chance of succeeding here. We've already seen glimpses of the relationship last September, and if everyone can stay healthy, this quarterback and wide receiver duo has potential to be one of the league's very best. And look, I mean, if Donnie Mitchell can pan out and become a legitimate deep threat in the NFL, this could be a heavily underrated passing attack in the league. And not only that, but it could just help complement that running game so good too. On defense, the Colts struggled last season, ranking 28th out of 32 for points allowed, but they have gone some way to fixing this so far in the offseason. In the 1st round, they added an edge rusher out of UCLA, who Latu is a unanimous All-American who lifted the Ted Hendricks Award as a college football's top defensive end. Despite going 15th in the draft, Latu was the first defensive player taken, and he will slot right into a Colts defense that struggled to get to the quarterback last season, ranking just 4th in total hurries. Latu is regarded by many as a can't-miss prospect with phenomenal athleticism, and he looks set to have an immediate impact on the team. Beyond that, the Colts have made a concerted effort to hang on to brighter spots on the defense, tying up the likes of linebacker Zaire Franklin and defensive back Kenny Moore II on 3-year deals, ensuring continuity in this defensive unit. Which really now begs the question, what are the end goals and expectations of this Colts franchise now? Well, I mean, Shane Steichen's men will be hoping to do even better than last season and secure a playoff berth for the first time since 2020. Standing in their way, however, is one of the league's strongest divisions, led by new kings of the AFC South, the Houston Texans. And yes, we all know that the Texans did win the division last year in that crazy Week 18 matchup, but that honestly just came down to a coin flip after all, when the running back dropped the pass that cost the Colts that game. Like, if he catches that ball, the Colts honestly could have flipped the script and maybe even won the division if he catches that pass. Don't get me wrong though, the Texans have definitely improved themselves going into next year, having added the likes of Stephon Diggs, Joe Mixon, and Danielle Hunter to a team that already went 10-7 and boasted the offensive and defensive rookies of the year in CJ Stroud and Will Anderson, adding a solid Jaguar side who went 9-8 last year, and this is a tough division to call. It's also a tough schedule for the Colts to navigate this fall, with matchups against the Dolphins, Bills, and Packers to contend with, in addition to these divisional games. But these Colts are a team who look well placed to be a real under-the-radar side in 2024. Sadly, last year we were all robbed of more Anthony Richardson, but everything seems in place now for this offense to take the NFL by storm on the ground and through the air. Make no mistake, Steichen's team will be a tough opponent for anyone this year, and if Richardson can stay healthy next time around, don't be surprised to see this team in the playoffs in January and beyond. But as always, I want to know what you guys think. How good are the Colts this year? Honestly, for me, Anthony Richardson, I've been picking up his sports cards. I think he's going to have a phenomenal year this year. I don't think he's going to have a CJ Stroud type of year, but I still do think that he's going to have a solid year, being the second best quarterback from that 2023 draft class. But I want to know what you guys think. Give me your record predictions down below in the comments section. For me, if Houston can do what everybody's saying, the Colts should be probably 9-8 again, or even 8-9. You know, they're probably going to be second or third in this division. I just don't see the Texans screwing up anything this year with all the talent they have around there. But as always, let me know down in the comment section what you guys think. Give me your thoughts about just how good the Colts are going to be. And as always, I will catch you guys in the next one.